Former President Donald Trump, welcome back to the Hugh Hewitt Show. Great to have you on again, sir.
Good morning. Hi.
You're always the best interview in America because you always make news. So I want to start with a national security question. If President Xi Jinping sends ships to invade Taiwan, should United States submarines sink them, Mr. President?
Well, I wouldn't get into that, and it's not a good thing to, because those things you just don't tell to the world's favorite radio host. You just can't do that. And you have to keep some things to yourself in terms of strategy, because we're working hard and we think we're doing really well, and we could get back there very soon. So I don't think you want to be broadcasting that. I can tell you this. Ukraine and Russia would have never happened if I was there. And Taiwan, which is a possibility, a strong possibility, would never, ever have happened if I were there.
All right, let's go to Ukraine. They want F-16s from the United States. Should the United States send F-16s to Ukraine?
I think the United States should negotiate peace between these two countries, and I don't think they should be sending very much. They should be negotiating peace. And the other thing is Europe has to do much more, because Europe is doing probably just a small fraction of what we're doing. Not probably. They're doing a very small fraction of what we're doing. We're going to be in there, I believe, for $107 billion, and Europe is in there for a tiny fraction of that amount. And obviously, it's bad for everybody, but it affects Europe more than it affects our country. And that's the way it has to be. You know, when I took over, NATO was delinquent on most of the NATO countries. There were 8 that were paid. There were 20 of them that were delinquent, and they were very delinquent. Some hadn't paid at all. Some were very low. Germany had paid less than half. France was down. Many countries were very, very delinquent, had not paid. And I said, fellas, you got to pay, and you got to pay now. And if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you. That's right.
Do you want to cut off aid to Ukraine right now, Mr. President?
I want to make it so that Ukraine and Russia have to fight, and fight for the last time. And we got to make peace. If we don't make peace, if we just keep sending everything, we're sending everything over. They got to fight for the last day, for the last 2 days. This thing has to stop, and it's got to stop now. And it's not going to stop if we continue to just load something up. Now, I will say this. If Russia was not a willing participant, I would have a different mindset. But right now, there's no reason for them or anybody else to sit down. We don't have the leadership to get them to sit down. Look, I think you believe it. Zero chance this would have happened. I went in with Russia early on. I ended their pipeline. I did everything. Nord Stream, nobody ever heard of Nord Stream 2 until I came along. I ended everything. And Putin will tell you the worst he's ever had is Trump. They talk about Trump. He loved Putin. I get along well with Putin. But nobody was tougher on Russia than I was. If you look at it...
Have you read, Mr. President, the Columbia Journalism Review expose of Russia, Russia, Russia? It came out in the last 4 days, and it devastates the New York Times and others for their coverage of the Russia, Russia, Russia Steele dossier. Have you read that yet?
I have seen it in summary. I'm going to read it tonight. I hear it was incredible. By the way, just to get back, I'm the one that gave him the javelins to knock out the tanks. I did things that Russia could not be happy about. Obama was sending them pillows, if you remember, and sheets. And yes. I sent javelins, and so nobody was, and I sent them a lot of javelins, and they used those javelins to start the war very successfully, knocking out all the tanks. So, but we have to get that negotiated. We need peace. We have to have peace. And it's got to happen now. It should have never happened. There was a war that would have never happened.
Mr. President, Margot told me I have a heart out, so I got to ask you a lot of questions in a hurry, unless you tell Margot that you want more time with me. First hard question. Some worry that if you are reelected president, you will use your powers to seek revenge on the people that have been after you since 2016 and 2015. What do you say to those people who say that you'll abuse the office if you're reelected?
Well, when you look at that Columbia report, which was very devastating to the New York Times and to really everything, to our country because of what they did, I was a victim, and everyone knows it, and now they really know it. That was a well-crafted report by a rather liberal, I'm being nice, group of people.
The Columbia Journalism Review is very left-wing, yes.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah.
But that was a devastating report, and I think probably more so than anybody else. Well, the people that participated, but the New York Times was truly made into either a smart and evil group or a very stupid group. And by the way, I'm suing Pulitzer, and this should be almost the end of that, because if a judge and jury see this report, to give back the Pulitzer Prizes, because the New York Times and the Washington Compost got it, and they got it strongly. They had all of the different things. They knew everything that was going on. They reported so badly. You know, the Pulitzer Prize is supposed to be for great reporting, for accurate reporting. Congratulations, you've done. Well, they got it exactly wrong.
They did get it wrong, but my question is, if you're back in the Oval, will you use the powers of the presidency to punish people who punished you?
No, I wouldn't do that, because
right.
I want to bring our country forward. No, I wouldn't do that.
One of the best things you did when you ran the first time.
That's words, but I wouldn't. I would be entitled to a revenge tour, if you want to know the truth, but I wouldn't do that. I would want to straighten out our border. I would want to get inflation down, build our economy up, which is actually doing very poorly. You do have a potential disaster on your hands with the war. You also have a disaster with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. I get along with him great. He always liked me. You saw that. And he doesn't like Biden at all. And he's arming up, and Iran is arming up, and you got to do something about it.
One of the people who is going to declare for president this month, according to reports this morning, is Nikki Haley. If she runs for president, what's your response, Mr. President?
Well, she called me and she asked me about it, and I told her she should follow her heart. You know, she said numerous times, I put it up actually, that I would never run if our president runs. He was a great president, et cetera, et cetera. She said that numerous times, but she's a very ambitious person. She just couldn't stay in a seat. I said, you know what, Nick, if you want to run, you go ahead and run. She's
Earlier today, Larry Hogan, who's going to run, told me that if you are the nominee, he will support you. My question to you, Mr. President, if you're not the nominee, will you support whoever the GOP nominee is?
It would depend. I would give you the same answer I gave in 2016 during the debate. The first question I was asked by Brett Baer. I was asked two rather interesting questions. It would have to depend on who the nominee was.
Are you still mad at me for the triad question, by the way?
No, but it was the only question that I answered, not terribly, but I didn't answer it. I think I had a good excuse. I was just in the game, and you asked me about the triad, the nuclear triad.
I think it's fine. I just want to know if you're going to do a lot of debates this time.
But I did say you've always got a trick up your sleeve. But no, I wasn't upset about that at all. I think I gave a half-assed answer.
Well, I do have a trick up my sleeve. You named the Supreme Court list before you got elected. Are you going to do that again? And will you tell us who your Attorney General, your Secretary of Defense, and your Secretary of State will be before you get elected if you're nominated again?
Well, I won't tell you now, but I will do a list. I already have a list very much in mind. I was in a position where I put in 3, and that was pretty good, because some presidents have never had the opportunity to do 1. You know that. And there could be some pretty big opportunities within, after 2 years, because you look at the age factor, it just works that way. But no, I'm going to do a list, and I very well might name some of the people. We have great names that want to be with us. We have great support, tremendous names. We got J.D. Vance yesterday. He endorsed. We have,
on this show. On this show, he endorsed. Yes. Now, let me close before Margot calls up by asking you about Governor Youngkin, Governor Abbott, Governor DeSantis. You got like 8 people who might run. Will they all get a nickname? I know Pompeo's nickname is My Mike, but will they all get a nickname if Mike Pompeo runs or Youngkin runs or Abbott runs? Will they all get nicknames?
Well, first of all, that's not Pompeo's nickname. I believe it's not it.
I thought in his book he says it's My Mike.
No, I don't know. I haven't seen the book yet. I haven't read it, although I heard he was generally nice. I think.
Oh, very good to you.
Yeah, he took a little bit more credit than he should, but that's okay with me. It's all going to the same, because we did a great job. I got along very well with Mike, but we did a great job. This country has never been run so well. This country, despite the COVID and all of the things, and all of what you read yesterday in that report. Don't forget, these guys, before I even got in, they were spying on my campaign long before I got in. This didn't just happen And if I didn't fire Comey, and if I didn't fire McCabe and Strzok and Page and all of that scum that was in there, you would have had, they were trying to do an overthrow. And they, just think of it, they spied on my campaign from the time I came down the escalator, and here I am innocently running to do something great, and I have this garbage that's in there, headed up by Comey and the group. They spied on my campaign, and I got rid of them all. But it was more than them. And you know that, and you know that's coming up.
I do that, but I know Margot's calling. So you got to tell me though.
Okay, don't worry about Margot. Margot's great, but
okay, then we'll go. Tell me about the nicknames for Youngkin and Abbott and Pompeo.
Let me just say this: they spied on my campaign. We had an amazingly solid group of people and a tremendously solid. What I did with tax cuts, regulation cuts, I rebuilt the military that they gave so much of it to Afghanistan. Think of it, $85 billion to Afghanistan. All the different things. What they did, they were trying to subvert. What they did was incredible. But it started off. Remember when I said very innocently, I think Obama spied on my campaign. And that thing turned out to be, that shook everybody because they knew they did it. And the place went wild. And I'll never forget, I get a call from, I guess you'd call them comms. This is long before I got into office. Oh, yeah, this all took place long before I got into office. But I get some call from the effectively comms person. Sir, did you say that President Obama spied on your campaign? I said, yes, I did. And I didn't know, it's a big statement, it's a hard statement to make, but I didn't know it was going to be picked up. Probably the biggest, and I've had some big Twitter at the time, now it's Truth. And by the way, Truth Social is the hottest thing, and it's doing great. I hope all your listeners get on Truth Social because that's where it's at.
Are you going back to Twitter? Are you going to do anything on Twitter?
Well, here's the thing. I appreciate being put back on. I'm sitting there with like 90 million people. By the way, I should have had 200, 250. I think I had way over 200 million when you include. I had, according to Zuckerberg, another beauty, I was number one on Facebook. He came to the White House and he said in front of a large group, "Congratulations, you're number one Facebook." Think of it. They took me down from Facebook. They took me out of Instagram. They took me off of Twitter. So I went from having maybe 250 million total to nothing. And I had to dig my way out of that because I have a lot of things to say. And I did. And I did it with a thing called a press release. You're one of the few people. You're at an age where you remember the word press release.
Yep.
And it was Save America press releases. And it took me about a month to say, how do I get my word out? Because so many people wanted to hear, and I did them, and they exploded. And we opened up an incredible platform, and it takes a while, and it's very expensive, called Truth. And Truth Social is the hottest thing there is. It's been unbelievable. And, I got the word out. So I can go back to Twitter whenever I want. And, I have some ideas planned, but, it's just not necessary. Truth is so hot, and I'll always have truth.
All right, so I want to go back to the nicknames because people want to know, what's Nikki Haley going to be? What's Greg Abbott going to be? Is Glenn Youngkin going to get a nickname?
Well, people said I gave Youngkin a little bit of a nickname. You know what disappoints me about Youngkin? He ran, nice guy. I endorsed him, which helped him greatly. But then he ran, and he was not doing very well. But he was inching up, and he ran against a sleazebag, who I knew very well, Terry. I've known very well. But Terry's a sleazebag. Everybody that knows him would know that. I'm sure he'd be thrilled to hear it. But he ran, and he ran hard, and he worked hard. And my endorsement meant a lot. But at the end, he needed me to do something. And I made a call. It's called a teletown call, teletown hall, they call it. And it goes to every home. It goes to vast homes in the state of Virginia, in this case. And I gave a 15-minute thing, and we had thousands and thousands of people on that call. And there wasn't any person that wasn't on that call that didn't go and vote. And he won by, a fairly tight number. But I had, far, far, far more than that number. Somebody said 444,000 people were on that call. And he was really nice to me, gracious to me in writing. He wrote me the most beautiful letter you've ever seen, thanking me and everything. But then they decided, because his campaign manager was a smart guy, Jeff.
Very smart guy.
Yeah. Jeff Rose said, He did it without Trump. He did it without Trump. He did it with me, and I didn't like that. So he wrote me this beautiful letter and called me and thanked me. And I said, listen, perhaps you'll thank me publicly as opposed to thanking me behind the press's back. And, oh, yes, I'll do it. But he never really did. I did a lot for him, and he got elected because of me, just like Ron DeSantis, even more so. But Ron DeSantis got elected because of me. You remember he had nothing. He was dead. He was leaving the race. He came over and he begged me for an endorsement. He was getting ready to drop out. I gave him an endorsement, and as soon as I gave that endorsement, in fact, I said, you're going to have a hard time. He was running against Adam Putnam, the Commissioner of Agriculture, who had a massive lead. He's been running for 8 years while he was commissioner. He had $40 million in cash. I believe it was 40. And he was up in the poll massively by, but not catchable, not even catchable. He said, if you endorse me, I'll win. And there were tears coming down from his eyes. He said, if you endorse me, I'll win. I'll say, you know what, Ron? Ron was one of 150 people that was on television. I mean, Jim Jordan was the best and others were great. But he was one of 150 that was on television, and he was supporting me on the impeachment hoax #1 and a little bit on the impeachment hoax #2. And I said, I don't know Adam Putnam, so we'll do it. So I end up doing it, and he wins. They say it was like a bomb went off. Just a bomb just totally went off. From the moment I endorsed him, he went from losing by numbers that are not catchable to winning easily. And
is it your position, Mr. Trump, that
then I got him past the crackhead, who was the hottest person in the entire Democrat Party at the time. He slightly took a different position afterwards, but that's all right. Him and Stacey Abrams were the two hottest politicians. That they were going to be the party of the future, the Democrats of the future. And I did 2 or 3 rallies, average size, like massive. They were massive. I said, you're going to win, Ron. He said, I don't think so. Nobody thought he could win. First of all, I got him the nomination and purely got it. And people in the campaign of Adam Putnam will tell you, because they say everything collapsed the moment I pressed that trigger. And then I got him into the general. And then they say, will you run against the president? Like 2 years later, will you run against the president? And he says, I don't want to talk about that. This is not something we're talking about now. I said, that's not a very good answer. Now, in the case of Nikki Haley, she's gone around publicly. You saw it's all over the place.
Correct.
And she said, I'll never run against my president. He's a great president. He's been our greatest president. I'll never run. But Nikki suffers from something that's a very tough thing to suffer from. She's overly ambitious.
Mike Pompeo says in his book that she asked you to become the vice president in place of Mike Pence in the 2020 election. Is that true?
It's absolutely false. That who asked me? Nikki Haley asked me to be vice president?
Yeah, that's according to John Kelly. That didn't happen?
Can you imagine that I would run as vice president?
No. Nikki Haley asked you if she could be your vice presidential nominee in 2020.
You said that she asked me if I'd be her vice president.
No.
That would be a big story. If anybody would say, yes, I did, you should immediately take that person off your list as ridiculous. Okay. No, I did not ask her at all to be vice president. Nope, never mentioned it to her.
And she didn't bring it up to you?
I don't want to say that. I'm not going to embarrass her, but I have never asked her to be vice president.
So,
A
Mr. President,
lot of people would like to be. No. I think a lot of the people running. Look, I'm way ahead in the polls. Ron DeSantis is way behind me. Every once in a while, Fox will put up a phony poll, because Fox is not Fox of old. That I can tell you. I'm sure you know that too. But Fox will put up a fake poll. But I'm way ahead in New Hampshire. I'm way ahead in South Carolina. I'm way ahead in Iowa, and I'm way ahead in the country.
are you looking forward to the debates, the Republican debates?
I always look forward to the debates. Debates will be good. I guess I'm talking to you because of debates. If the debates weren't good for me, I wouldn't have been there. I mean,
I tell people you will do every debate. You skipped one debate in 2016. It was a Fox debate, and then you came back. But you're not going to skip any of them this time?
Well, I have to see. I mean, no, I skipped the Fox debate. You know why? Because they were not treating me fairly. Yes. And I said, listen, you're getting all your ratings because of me. I'm the one, those debates were very highly rated. When I skipped, it was nobody watched, okay? And I said, you're getting all your ratings by me. You got to treat me better. And I said it loud and clear to Roger Ailes, who I really liked. He was He was good, but he was a player. He was a wise guy, no question about it. And I did very well in the debates. I mean, I mean, supposedly legendarily well. Nobody wants to write that.
So I got to wrap this up, or your team's never going to talk to me again. I want to know about you have the position, if you've done someone well, if you've helped Youngkin or DeSantis or Nikki Haley or Mike Pompeo, is it your position they should not run against you if you've helped them?
Yeah, I would say that, but I know how life works, and I know how politics works. And politics is the microcosm, but even more vicious of life. So, I've helped all those people. I took Mike out of nothing, and, I'm surprised because Mike said, I believe the same thing. I believe he always said he'd never run against the president. And, time goes by, and then they want to run because they're ambitious people. But, they're polling very poorly. But I heard Mike said some very good things in the book. Look, we did a great job. We did a great job. That was an amazing job. You wouldn't be in Ukraine, and you would have never been in Taiwan. And Putin knew that better than anybody. Nobody was tougher in Russia than me, but I did it with a smile. I got along with Putin. He used to say, they say you're easy on Russia. You're the worst that we've ever had. I stopped his Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Biden comes along and gives him the Nord Stream 2 that was totally dead.
Yeah.
And he gives it, and then they say, and that's the biggest thing they've ever done. There's never been a thing that you
So let me close with Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. First of all, have you received a target letter from any grand jury?
No.
Okay.